Hi guys. So hope you're all well. I thought I'd do a short video just to introduce the work today and to just go over some of the reforms. I've had a few questions, so thank you for your questions. Please keep your questions coming. If you don't understand anything, don't just copy stuff from the textbook. Just if anything doesn't quite sit right with you, please come to me. Sometimes I miss them on Google Classroom because I haven't got notifications set up. So if you've asked me something, please email me as well. Or if you ask me something and I haven't answered, then give us an email. All right. Okay. So you should have done the reforms from 2010 to 2015 without devolution. Okay. So you should have done the House of Lords reform. And the House of Commons boundary reform. Basically nothing happened, right? So the Lib Dems wanted further House of Lords reform because they're Democrats and because they believe in that sort of thing. Conservatives have a natural inclination to not to keep traditional institutions, don't they? We know that from the Conservative perspective. They like tradition, they like old institutions, they like things to grow slowly, organically. So Conservative, when this was put on the table, so more basically getting rid of the House of Lords and replacing it with a partially elected House. That's what they were going to do. The 91 backbench Conservative MPs blocked it. Okay, so basically nothing happened. In return, the Lib Dems blocked this idea of boundary reforms, where they're going to change the constituencies and they were going to have 600 constituencies instead of 650. And the Lib Dems blocked that. So essentially, when you're evaluating that reform, you just go, well, nothing happened. So and House of Lords remains this kind of like bit hereditary, bit sort of stuff. Okay, electoral reform, again, nothing happened, right? So they had a referendum, as you know, on alternative vote. The proposals were rejected by 68% of people. The turnout was also quite low. It was also seen as a kind of bit of a referendum on the Lib Dems because people were like, don't like this guy, he's lied about tuition fees and stuff. So they chucked him out. They went against so again, nothing happened on the old electoral reform, right? Rights, again, nothing happened, right? So the Conservatives wanted to replace the Human Rights Act with a British Bill of Rights because they wanted to make a specific rights for the UK, and we weren't bound by Europe, and bit of a Eurosceptic thing going on there, but also they wanted to be able to protect security and stuff like that. So they're like, yeah, let's do that, but didn't manage to push it forward. So again, nothing happened. We'll leave devolution. You're going to do devolution in a minute. Now the Fixed Term Parliament Act. Now that is quite interesting. Now previous to the Fixed Term Parliament Act, it was one of the powers of the Prime Minister to call an election. All right, so they could look at the opposition, go, the opposition are weak, I'm going to call an election, all right, and then there'll be election in 4 months or whatever it was. It was a significant power for them because they sort of controlled the timing of the election and what have you. Now there were conventions around that, like you couldn't just call an election after 6 months, or you wouldn't want to anyway. You've just won one, so why risk it? But also you couldn't really leave it longer than 5 years either. So around 4 to 5 years you had to, but it was a convention. You could have, it's not legally binding. So the Fixed Term Parliament Act actually was brought in to stabilise the coalition. They were a bit worried about the coalition staying together and there being a vote of no confidence. So they were like, or an early election called or whatever it is. So they actually like, okay, in line with most other countries, we're going to have a fixed term where the government is in, okay? And this is in line with constitutional liberal thinking, where you're going to limit the power of whoever's in power, right? Like Trump has to face an election because an American president is allowed 2 terms of exactly 4 years and not more. Okay, so the Fixed Term Parliament Act was supposed to take power out of the hands of government, this kind of extra power, and say, look, we're only going to have an election. It's going to be once every 5 years, and everyone knows where they are. Now, there's a way of getting around the Fixed Term Parliament Act, whereas if you have a majority of 2/3 of MPs, you can just call an election, right? And so when Theresa May called an election in 2017, where she's like, look, Jeremy Corbyn, he's weak. So when she did that, she says, well, let's have an election then. And obviously the opposition have spent all their time going, well, we want an election, we want to be in power. So it's a bit like a playground fight. You can't back down publicly. So Jeremy Corbyn had to say yes to the election. He told his MPs to vote for it. And then it happened again in 2019, where Jeremy Corbyn says, no, we won't have we won't agree to, do you remember that was all that fuss where Boris Johnson was like, let's have an election, and I want an election, and Jeremy Corbyn was like, I want an election, but neither was willing to, Jeremy Corbyn says, well, you have to take no deal off the table, and etc. So, but again, they got around it. So we were supposed to have an election in 2020 this year, according to the Fixed Term Parliament Act, but 2 elections were called before that. Okay, now obviously in the UK with Brexit, well, now with all this, it's exceptional circumstances, but it shows you that actually this act isn't very powerful. And again, it's just a statute act. You can replace it, reform it, and they actually might do. They might just repeal the act because it doesn't seem to be very effective. Okay, reform of the House of Commons. There was a small reform. You're going to know more about this later. There was a small reform. They were called the Right Committee, and they proposed various things. There was a backbench business committee, which is kind of proposes stuff, has a bit of timetable. So for people, that's MPs who aren't in government. Backbenchers are MPs that aren't in government. They are just sitting MPs. Okay. So that, and then these select committees, which are committees which they scrutinise the activities of government departments. So you have, like, for example, you have the Education Committee, the Education Select Committee, and they will scrutinise the Department of Education. All right. So they used to be, the chairs of those used to be chosen by the government. Now they're chosen by committees of MPs, and I think is it the chairs or all the members? Anyway, don't worry too much about them. What that means is small changes to make the House of Commons more democratic have occurred. Okay, it gives power to committees and institutions which aren't the government. Both of those reforms do. So you're going to know much more about that when we do the Parliament topic. So you can leave it on that surface level if you want. Then the last one, I hope you saw the case of Fiona Oyasande, I think. The Recall of MPs Act. So this is the idea that if MPs are in trouble, get into trouble or do something scandalous, particularly if they do something against the law, they should be able to be removed from power. So before that, you could literally break the law and be in prison and still be an MP for your area, get your salary, make decisions like crazy. So anyway, so they have this Recall of MPs Act for a sitting MP who if you have a petition and a certain amount of voters call for it, you'll have what they known as a by-election. Okay, so it's not obviously a main general election, it's election for just one seat. So you have by-elections when either the Recall of MPs Act has been invoked by this petition, or you have it when an MP resigns. So that obviously triggers a little local contest, if you will. All right. Okay, so we're going to move on to devolution next. What I'm going to do, I'm a little bit torn here. I think I'm going to get you to look at the 2 pre-tube videos. Okay. There's what is devolution and the impact of devolution. Now, the first one's it's not too bad. The second one is a little bit longer. Okay. Devolution only means the pushing out of power from the centre. So you devolve power, all right? Usually when we think of devolution, we think of power going to Scotland, going to Wales, and going to Northern Ireland, all right? So a devolution of the regions, all right? There is an extra element to devolution where you push power out also to local government and to regional assemblies. So even though they're not like a kind of a country or sort of a region like Wales, Scotland, or Northern Ireland, they are, you know, if you give more power to local government, that or a particular region like in the north, that is also devolution. Okay, you're also devolving power. So I'm going to get you to do the first 2 videos of Pretude. I was going to make my own video, but I just think I'm just remaking their videos. It's crazy. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to write the task down. I will do a video like this afterwards. So I'm going to get you to have a look at it, and then we'll talk through it. There's also lots of notes in the textbook, where I'm going to get you to just get some facts out of the textbook after you've watched the videos. All right. Okay. Right. That's it. Cool. All right. Hope you're well, and I'll see you later. Bye.